Look at this dude's tarmac. I really want that bike. I'm just too poor. All right. Anyways, what are we talking about? We're talking about Back to Racing, Tour of America's Dairyland, Day 1 in Janesville, 2020, post-pandemic, Cat 4-5, or Cat 4 Novice, I guess it is now, pandemic. Whoa, took way too much time. Back to Racing. Everyone's super rusty. It's a 4-5 field, so we got a whole bunch of new guys too, which I found in these, and I did the entire Tour of America's Dairyland, and we'll talk about every race. And this race I did the worst. I think I was the most rusty. Positioning was number 1. And we're going to talk about today why not being in the first bit of wheels, first 10 plus maybe roughly, in the first bit of wheels where you can take turns on fastest lines and not get stuck slamming on brakes like I am here in every corner, and then surging out of everyone for 700 plus watts out of every corner. Or getting stuck behind, especially in the beginning, in a 4-5 field, guys like this on the right, taking really pretty crazy lines, which I find was particularly unique to a 4-5 field. I haven't raced 3-4 yet, but I'd like some input on that, on what people see in the 4-5 field, because I mean, even here, this guy, he was strong, but I mean, watch him sway, and I almost cuts my front wheel off. Which, again, it's my duty to protect my front wheel, right? Rule number 1. But, I mean, especially in the 4-5 field, I found some stuff that I think is unique to the 4-5 field that people should know about, and that's why I want to talk about it today. The main thing I want to talk about today is cornering, and everyone slams on their brakes and surges like this. I mean, you get stuck in positions mid-pack like this instead of on the first bit of wheels where you can take ideal lines, and you're just slamming on your brakes. I found that taking the outside line was oftentimes safest here in a 4-5 field where the inside gets a little bit cagey, people get a little bit nervous. Like here, when you get stuck in the group and you're taking corners pretty tight, you can still get pushed out wide and still be safe. So that was sort of one of the things I did. You can do that and still get cut off like this guy is about to do. I mean, even when you're going wide, you can still get cut off, and I mean, it still gets crazy, but at least like you can see here, there's an out, that you have out when you go wide versus inside, and it's so cagey. So that's one thing I found, is that taking the outside line sometimes, especially in the beginning when you're still sort of dropping half the field like you do in a 4-5 field in the first couple laps, it's good to go outside because you always have a little bit of an out. Not always, but at least most of the time I found in this race. The other thing I tried to do was allow a gap into corners. So I think there's a clip of it coming up here where if you permit a little bit of a gap going into the corner, you can avoid braking as much into the guy in front of you and then surging out of it. This might be another example where you allow a little bit more of a gap between wheels into that corner and then get right back on a wheel out of it into the draft. Here's another example. We're all going to break into this corner. I know this gap isn't going to, grow. I'm not getting dropped. I'm just allowing a gap and then coming right up to the wheel, a little bit too wide here, but coming right back up to the wheel out of the corner. So that's one of the big takeaways I found, is that allowing that gap into the corner, especially in the, when you're stuck in mid-pack instead of at the front where you should be, near the front, allowing a gap like this will allow you to not have to slam on the brake and then surge out, which I do a little bit of surging here, but I'm still right back on a wheel. Other things I learned about specifically cornering here is, even gaps like this that, most of the 3-4 higher categories aren't going to allow, because people are able to take those corners the way they should at speed without braking and slamming the brakes, and I can still get pushed out like this. I still think this is something that's, you'll probably see in a 3-4 field and above, but not even close to the degree of it is here, because you just brake so much in a 4-5 field because everyone's nervous. I mean, when you're doing group rides and stuff, most people like myself just don't even brake into corners. There's just no reason. You just take the corner with the ideal line, and yes, you brake a little bit to make sure you're not completely out of control, but I mean, this guy, right, this is another example. This guy takes a good line. I kind of cut him off a little bit. dive bomb that one. That was not a proper corner on my end, but I mean, there's other things in a 4-5 field that I just think are a little bit unique with everyone braking. So maybe I'm wrong. Tell me if I'm wrong. Tell me if you think otherwise, and you still see this in a 3-4. I haven't raced a 3-4 yet, but I will hopefully soon as I get a little bit better. I'm still a Cat 4. So what else did we learn? What else did I learn about this race? Well, you can do things like this guy's doing, moving up and surging there to move up some positions. But when you're gonna have to, when you're still not in the front where you should be in the first couple of wheels, you're still gonna break into this corner. There's still gonna be a big congestion into this corner, and I'm allowing a gap. I don't break at all, and now I'm right back up to where that guy surged to get to. So again, if you're stuck in a bad position like I am here, which is rule number 2 or whatever, is that if you're in the first bit of wheels, you can take ideal lines and not have to get stuck behind stuff like this, where you get a mechanical and you're stuck behind mid-pack and now you're caught up in stuff. So again, if you're doing this kind of stuff in a 4-5 field or just in any field, positioning is key. First bit of wheels, first couple wheels, I don't know, 10 maybe. Won't have to break into every single corner, but in a 4-5 field, especially this race, I was breaking a lot into these corners. When ideally, if you're on the first bit of wheels, you don't have to break at all, and everyone's taking the ideal line and doing okay. So we're almost done here on this race. This guy, again, he was really good at moving up. He found some, I think this was actually kind of a good spot to move up here, because you could take the outside line here and still continue with speed. In this case, I just allowed that gap to open up again, but you can see he took the outside line, and he's further ahead of me now. So his move on that straightaway was actually pretty good, because now he's like, what, 7+ wheels ahead of me, just from a little bit of energy. So you got to figure out when to move up into these corners, and if there is a situation where you can move up into the corner and still be safe and still be fast. And that's part of the game here. So if anyone thinks otherwise about what I just said, please let me know. I have the rest of the Tour of America's Dairyland recorded. I'm going to go over stuff like this again with much better results, much better positioning throughout the rest of the 10 days of racing. But again, let me know if you learned something from this. And yeah, we'll talk about the rest of Toad with the rest of the videos. Thanks for watching.